Hello and welcome to a new Oxygen XML webinar. My name is George Bina and I will be your host today, as usually in the last weeks. By now, probably you are used to our Wednesday webinars at the same time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific time or 11 a.m. US Eastern time or 5 p.m. Europe Central time. And we plan to continue this series of webinars. We have a few more already scheduled, and we plan to add some additional webinars. In these webinars, we try to cover different products that we offer, different technologies, and how our products support you in using those technologies. And today, I invited my colleague Sorin Carbonaru to talk about DITA with getting started with DITA using Oxygen XML webinar. Sorin is part of the authoring team, the team that handles the visual editing, DITA support, and so on. We plan to add a few other DITA-related webinars in the future, maybe covering a bit on the customization part, more on the reuse and the publishing and so on. Before we start, let me give you some useful information. The most frequent question is whether the webinar will be recorded or not, and the answer is yes. This webinar will be recorded and the recording will be available from the event page, where you will also have slides, and sometimes we also publish there some sample files that were used during the webinar, as well as on our YouTube channel, which is named Oxygen XML. Please ask questions at any time using the questions panel in the GoToWebinar interface. Both me and also my colleague Radu Koravu is available to answer these questions. We will also have at the end of the webinar a dedicated time to go through your questions and answer them so everyone can hear what was asked and receive the answers to get maybe a better picture of what was discussed in this webinar. You can also use Twitter if you like, and in that case, please mark your questions with the Oxygen XML hashtag or direct them to the Oxygen XML account so we can easily spot them. Now, let me make Sorin presenter. Hello, Sorin, welcome.
Hello, George. Thank you for introducing me today. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar, in which I'm going to talk to you in the next 40 to 45 minutes or so about how to get started with DITA using Oxygen XML Editor. The journey of 1,000 miles, they say, starts with one step, and I really hope that today's webinar will be that first step that you need for getting better and better and mastering DITA and Oxygen. And as Dawson Trotman said, the greatest amount of wasting time is the time not getting started. So I want to dive directly into our presentation. I don't want to waste any time. And for today's webinar, we're going to imagine that DITA projects were actually construction projects, and we will make this analogy. And having that in mind, our agenda for today actually becomes a construction plan. We're going to create a small DITA project, and we will take these 5 steps that you see on the screen. We will start by preparing the construction site, that is switching to the DITA UI perspective and customizing it a bit. Then we will lay the foundation by creating a DITA map. We will start laying bricks and build one level after the other, and we'll do this by creating, editing, and adding topics to the map. I will show you how you can perform quality control inspections by using the validate and check for completeness action. And the last step we'll take is to open the finished site to the public, that is to publish our DITA content. And again, I really hope you will enjoy this webinar and you will find it interesting. So an Oxygen XML Editor perspective is an interface layout that is geared towards a specific use. So there's probably no surprise to anyone if I tell you that a DITA perspective is an environment, a user interface environment that brings a set of default side views and toolbars that are geared towards working optimally with DITA projects. And the easiest way you can switch to the DITA perspective is to go to the perspectives toolbar here in the top right corner and simply click the DITA perspective action. And some side views have changed. Let me open a topic so we can initialize the side views. So the available side views are the project view, where you can see all the resources that are available. Another side view is the DITA Maps Manager, and we are actually going to extensively use actions from the DITA Maps Manager. This is the main side view we are going to work with today. We have the Open Find Resource view, which is very helpful if you want to search for specific resources inside your project. I have this Git staging view because this Oxygen instance has the Git client installed, but we're not going to cover that. The outline shows the structure of the opened document. The attributes view presents all the attributes that are available for the current element. As you can see here, we are inside the short description element, and we have a list of available attributes. The elements view shows all the child elements that are available for the current element. We're not going to cover this hierarchy dependencies view today, but even though we're not going to cover content reuse, I want to keep this DITA reusable components view only for the media tab, because I want to use it when we're going to talk about how to insert images or video clips in your documents. After preparing our construction site, the next step that we want to take is to lay the foundation, a firm foundation, by creating a DITA map. DITA maps are actually documents that are used to organize DITA topics. For the scope of today's presentation, which covers only the basics, it's only an introduction to DITA and Oxygen, we could think about a map as a table of contents, but please bear in mind that this is an oversimplification. We're doing this only to better understand a map in this initial context, but a map is much more than that. Let's say it's a table of contents on steroids, but it's not a simple table of contents, okay? And Oxygen provides a specialized side view. I already mentioned it. A side view used for managing DITA maps, and that is the DITA Maps Manager. And switching back to Oxygen, we're moving to the Data Maps Manager. As I said, we're going to spend a lot of time here. And the easiest way to create a map, starting with the latest Oxygen version 22.1, is to use the new data map action from the toolbar. This dialog is displayed, and here we see a set of default map templates that we can use. Please note that these are this list of templates can be expanded. You can add your own templates, and you can edit the default ones if you want. We're going to create a generic map for today's presentation, and we are going to try to recreate the flowers sample that comes bundled with Oxygen when you install it. So let's call our map flowers, and we want to save this map in the flowers folder. Hit create, and voila, we have our first map in the Data Maps Manager. So it's as easy as this. If you are using an older version, older than 22.1, you have to use the file new action, which is also available here in the toolbar. You will see that there are a lot of other templates here, but you can use the filter at the top to look for the map templates that you need, and the rest of the process is very similar to what I have already shown. After laying our foundation, it's time to start laying bricks by creating, editing, and adding topics to the map. Data topics are the basic units of data content, are the building blocks or the bricks, and each topic should contain one single subject. And for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to show you the out-of-the-box support for data authoring that Oxygen includes. So we're switching back to Oxygen, and as I said, we're going to spend quite some time creating topics, adding them to the map, and then editing those topics. One way to create a first topic is to show the contextual menu on the data map here in the Data Maps Manager, then go to the Append Child submenu and click on New. This shows again the dialog that we have seen earlier, and we are selecting a generic topic template. We're going to give a name to this topic, introduction, and as you can see, Oxygen by default generates a file name for the topic based on the title, and we want to save this topic inside the topics folder. Hit create, and the topic has been created. We can start editing it, and the topic reference has also been added to the map. But let's say you already have some topics in your project that were created by someone else, and you want to add them to your map. If you have a topic open in the main editing area, you can again show the contextual menu, go to the Append Child submenu, and select the reference to the currently edited file action. This displays the insert topic reference dialog, and all the fields from here are already filled in, so we only have to click insert and close, and we have sorry for that, we have the second topic reference. Now let's say you want to add multiple references at the same time. We go to the same Append Child submenu, and we can use the reference action. We see again this dialog, and here in the file chooser we can select multiple topics at once. So what I want to do is to add some child references to the career and preparation topic. And even though I selected the wrong topic, which I didn't intend to do, I will go this way because I want to show you how you can move topic references. So I want to add the pruning and garden preparation topics to the career and preparation main topic. I will insert these, and as you can see, they have been added as children of the map, but we can move them simply by selecting and dragging them and then dropping over care and preparation. So this is how you can insert multiple already existing topics into your map. The next use case, again, when you have topics already defined, shows how easy it is to insert topic references only by dragging them, let's say, from the project view to the data maps manager. So this is easier than using the contextual menu. We will create a new topic here, and as you can see, I can create a topic inside a certain folder in the project view. We'll create a topic about the copyright. Oh, I think I did a stupid mistake. I wanted to create, actually, in the recently used section, I had map selected. I forgot to select a topic because I want a topic. And again, I want it to be about copywriting. And now we can simply drag it from here and drop it into the map. So this is easier than using the contextual menu. Now, if you already have in mind a certain topic structure, a certain topic hierarchy, you can use the fast create topics action. And here you need to provide a set of topic titles, one per line, and use indents, tabs or space characters to organize these topics into a hierarchy. I already have a text file here with a structure that I'm going to copy and paste it here. And we are going to create a flowers by season main topic, and then a topic for each season and specific topics for specific flowers. All of the generated files will have the same topic type. Again, we're going to create generic topics, but we can later convert them to more specific topic types if we want to, and we can select how we want to add these topics. And I actually want to insert them as a preceding siblings of the copyright topic. Note that all of these topics will be created in the same folder as the selected topic from the data maps manager. We do have an improvement request to allow for saving to a specific location by using this dialog, and we will probably add it in the future. Okay, so this is how we created an entire structure inside the map. And because I mentioned converting to more specific types of topics, these 4 selected topics, because they deal with generic information, they can actually be concepts. A concept is a more specific type of topic, and it's actually more suitable for this kind of generic information. What we can do is, again, go to the contextual menu in the refactoring submenu and select convert to concept action, and we can preview the changes. And for each topic, you see that it's changed from a topic to a concept, and also some other elements are changed. And after we click finish, you can see that the icons have changed here. That means our operation was successful. And one last way to create a topic for another specific use case, let's say you already have a topic with a certain structure that you want to reuse, and you only want to change something in the content, but not the structure. And I remember our lead technical writer, Stephen Higgs, saying one time that this is actually one of the ways he prefers writing documentation, because our user guide already has a lot of topics that can be reused, and we can use this duplicate action from the contextual menu and provide a name for the new topic, and then we can start editing the content inside the topic, but we keep the structure the same. So these were 6 ways for specific use cases on how you can create new topics in Oxygen, new data topics, and add them to the map. The data map can also be opened in the main editing area, and if you want to work with the map this way, you also have actions here for creating a new topic and adding references, but I personally advise you to mainly use the data maps manager, because it's specialized for creating the data map structure. And because I mentioned opening the data map in the main editing area, please know that you can also open a map in that area with all the topics being resolved. So if we click on this icon in the toolbar, you can see that all the content of the topics is here in the main editing area, and this gives you a quick overview of the entire content inside your data map. So enough about creating and adding topics. Let's talk about editing topics. And we'll start by editing this care and preparation topic. It talks about how good soil is a must to successful gardening. And here I have a comment that we need to add a table inside this topic. And for each flower, we want to provide the soil type that flower flourishes in. One way of creating a table is by going to the toolbar area, the main toolbar area here at the top, and use the insert table action. We are presented with this configuration dialog where we can provide a title, and we can choose how many rows and columns to insert and some other settings, and then press insert, and we have our table inserted in the topic. If you are like me and you prefer using the keyboard as much as possible, you can also use the content completion window or the content completion assistant by pressing enter, and we get this window. At the bottom, we have a filter that we can use to search for a specific element, and here we write table and then press enter again, and we get the same configuration dialog. So it depends on the way you prefer to work, either by sticking to the keyboard as much as possible, or using the mouse and clicking the actions in the toolbar area. If you need more rows or more columns in your table, you can use the toolbar actions to insert one row or one column at a time, and you can also delete columns and rows. But if you want to insert multiple rows or multiple columns at once, you have to go to the contextual menu, and select this insert rows or this insert columns action, and you can choose how many elements you want to insert and whether you want them above the current position or below the current position. For our sample, we need one more column, and we can start writing some content. So we want a flower column. We want to specify if it's a perennial or annual plant, and we want to specify the soil type. By the way, I'm navigating from one cell to another by using the tab key. So let's say that for snowdrops, which is perennial, we need humus-rich soil. And I don't know, for iris, which is also a perennial plant, we need, let's say, a nitrogen-rich soil. I don't know, but let's say it needs nitrogen-rich soil. Okay, so this is how you work with columns, with tables, sorry. By the way, if you have any questions, please send them to us and we will answer them. Now I don't need this comment anymore. This looks cleaner now. But as you can see, moving on, as you can see in the Data Maps Manager, the Kirion preparation topic has two child topics. And I actually want to add them as links, as related links inside their parent topic. One way we can do this is by using the related link to topic action from the toolbar. Sorry. Okay, I clicked the right one. Here we have to browse to the desired topic, and we want to add the garden preparation topic for once. In this table, you can see all the elements that we can create references to. Basically, they are all the references that have an ID. And when we click insert, we have our first link in this topic. But it's easier, probably, I mean, it's actually easier to insert a link by simply dragging and dropping either a topic from the Data Maps Manager, or if you have a lot of resources inside your project, you can also drag from the project. But if you have many resources inside the project, it's probably best to use this Open Find Resource side view, and you can use the filter to look for the specific topic that you want to create a reference to, and then again drag it into the related information area. When it comes to creating other kinds of cross references, you can do it the same way, either by using the action at the top, cross reference, which displays the same dialog as earlier, or simply dragging and dropping topics inside the current topic that is open in the main editing area. When it comes to inserting lists, I want to open this pruning topic because I have this comment again here, another comment that we should add the list of steps that we need to take for a successful pruning operation. We are actually inside a more specific kind of topic, and if we change the full tags, the tags viewing mode, the tags display mode to full tags, you can see that the root is a task. So it's more specific than here where it was a generic topic. And these specific topics, that is the tasks, have a specific element for providing the steps that you need in order to perform a task. And the element is actually called steps. Again, I'm using the content completion window and I'm writing steps. And when I press enter, I get the steps element with the first step and a command inside. And I can start typing my content, cut dead branches. I can insert a new step, a new list item. Again, from the content completion window, I pressed enter and I select new step and say cut tangled branches. But for those of you who prefer using the mouse, you can insert new list items by using this action in the toolbar. And let's say cut pest infected branches. For inserting generic lists, ordered lists, or unordered lists, again, we can use either the toolbar actions or the content completion window. But it's similar to what we have already seen, so I'm not going to cover them now. Moving on, I want to talk to you about how you can insert images. And this is where the media tab from the DITA reusable components is helpful, because here we can create a working set for all the resources that we want to use. And I will add the images and the videos folders in this working set. And here we have the list of available images and available video clips. And as you can see, the images have nice thumbnails, so you can easily spot which image you want to insert. You can use the contextual menu to insert an image as to insert this as an image reference, or probably the easier way to drag and drop that image and create a reference here. There's also a dedicated action here for inserting a reference, and you need to browse for that image, but I think it's easier to use this media tab, which is specialized for dealing with images and video clips, and also audio content. It's the same way for adding videos, either by using the action, but again, it's much more easier to simply drag it from here and drop it inside Oxygen. And you can actually play the video content inside the author page. As a side note, I actually remember a few years ago when I presented another webinar about the media support in Oxygen. I inserted an audio clip, and then I said, now let's listen to this audio content. And guess what? I was the only one who could listen to it, but that was a stupid mistake, and I learned something from it, so I'm not going to say the same thing again today. Okay, so we have seen how you can insert tables, links, lists, images, and videos. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about before moving on to validating and checking our map for completeness. And that is what we call the smart editing support. And this is very helpful in at least 3 cases. For example, having the tags display mode to no tags or partial tags, we place the cursor in a position where the text is not allowed. So as you can see in the left of the cursor, I am between the title and the body, and this is a position where text is not allowed in a topic. But even though text is not allowed there, the smart editing support, if I start typing, will have created a paragraph for me, and Oxygen actually moved me inside the body where it created the paragraph, so the text became valid. In a similar manner, if you want to insert an element in an invalid position, Oxygen also takes you to the right place. Again, I am here between, I am outside of the body of the topic, and I want to insert, let's say, a table. As you can see, the table is grayed out, which means it's not available, it's not valid here. But even though it's not valid, if I proceed with the creation of the table, you can see that again, Oxygen was smart enough to move my table inside the body, so I don't have an invalid topic now. And the third use case is when you try to copy content from an HTML page, let's say from the internet. So if I were to create a new topic for another summer flower, this time I want to make sure I create a topic, not a map. Let's say I want a topic about roses in the topics folder. And then I go to Wikipedia and I copy some content from here, like this. Copy, come back to Oxygen and paste the content. Yes, I want to connect to Wikipedia. As you can see, Oxygen kept all the links, and they are working just fine. And I have a table here, a table structure. I have the image, and I have an unordered list here, and so on. So the smart editing support is really helpful when you try to copy content from HTML. So this concludes the section about laying bricks. It's time for us to go back to the presentation and go to the fourth step. And I want to show you how you can perform quality control inspections. You should validate your data maps regularly if you want to make sure that your maps and your topics are valid, that all the relationships or all the references between them are working fine. And if you want to make sure you have no reusable components that are not referenced in your project. And to perform this validation, the Data Maps Manager has an action called validate and check for completeness. And this action is available in the toolbar of the Data Maps Manager. You can see that this configuration dialog has many settings that can be used when performing the validation. But if these settings are not enough, then you can bring your own custom checks using schematron. This is another topic. We're not going to cover it, but I just wanted to let you know that you can bring additional checks when you perform this validation. For the sake of our presentation, I only need these first two checkboxes being selected. And the validation shows me 3 problems. 2 of them are related to the same topic. So the first problem is that I have a reference to a resource that is outside of the main data map folder, and this may produce potential publishing problems. If I double click on the problem, I'm taken to the place where the problem resides. And for the sake of being fast, I'm going to remove this problem and move to the second problem. the second problematic topic. Here I have a topic referenced in other topics, which is not referenced inside the data map. And this time I'm going to add this topic into the data map by using this action that we already know, reference to the currently edited file. And if we perform the validation again, we can see that the validation is successful. Okay, so now that we have a valid data map, it's time to publish our content, or to keep the analogy of today's webinar, to open the finished site to the public. Oxygen uses a bundled version of the DITA Open Toolkit, or the DITA OT, to publish DITA content to various output formats. The DITA OT is an open source plugin-based publishing engine, and it can publish DITA content to formats such as XHTML, PDF, CHM, and others. And the cool fact is that the DITA OT that comes bundled with Oxygen actually contains some additional plugins that enable some other conversions from DITA to Microsoft Word, to EPUB, to WebHelp, or even publishing to PDF using CSS for customizing the output. To perform such a transformation, to publish our content, we again go to the toolbar of the Data Maps Manager, and we have this configure transformation scenarios action, which shows us this configuration dialog. This is the list of predefined, default, read-only transformation scenarios, and we can actually publish to several outputs at the same time. And I'm going to do just that. I'm going to publish my data map to PDF based on HTML and CSS. I'm going to with the default, but I actually want to perform one small edit. Yes, I want to duplicate this default transformation scenario, and I actually want to change the publishing template to something that is related at least partially to flowers. This green template, which has some leaves inside, so it's a little bit more related to plants. You can also add, if you want to provide a comments area at the bottom of each page in your WebHelp output, where your readers can offer you feedback. You can integrate our Oxygen feedback product, our newest product. And I know that my colleague Alin Balasha had a webinar about how you can do this a few weeks ago. And there are some other options that can be set. I need to set a specific option because I copied those images from Wikipedia, and I want to say that I do want to fix this reference to external resources. This is not something I really wanted to cover in this webinar, but I need to set that option to publish with those remote images. And now if I apply those scenarios that I selected, I can see that the transformations are being processed right now because of this small progress bar, and I can also see the console to make sure everything goes fine. This is where I can spot errors if any error happens, and in just a few seconds I should have the result of the transformations. Okay, so the first one that finished is the PDF. Of course, we don't have a lot of content in our PDF, but you can see that we have the images here, and so on, and we have an index generated, and this is how the PDF looks like. And I'm going to close this, and hopefully, okay, yes. It always takes longer in the actual webinar than it takes when you rehearse the webinar. I don't know why this happens always, but at least we have the result, and that's good, and it looks fine. And we can use the menus here to navigate in our content, and you can see that we have the content here with all the links, and we have this table of contents here in the left. So it looks nice, and as I said, you can experiment with the publishing templates to customize the output. So this is pretty much everything I wanted to tell you today. We have only scratched the surface today, but I hope this was indeed the first step that you needed, and that possibly with our next webinars and with our help, if you need it on the support channel, you will master DITA using Oxygen XML Editor. Thank you for listening to me, and now it's time for our Q&A section. So George, do we have any questions?
Thanks, Sorin. Yes, sure. We have a good number of questions, and let's try to go through them. Is there a way to automatically track changes to content when editing a DITA file? And maybe you can switch also to Oxygen, and we can show some of the answers. So yes, Oxygen has full track changes support, including tracking changes to content and structure and so on, the attributes. So as you see on the toolbar, this is a button that Sorin just used to enable track changes in a document. And then all the changes to that document are stored with the track change information. Actually, there is also the possibility to see these changes on the side. So maybe yes, like callouts in the options. That's the one possibility is with the review pane that that Sorin just made available. And the other is by seeing this as callouts. So if you go to the options preferences, then we also have an option for review callouts. Yeah, and then you can enable this also for track changes, and then you will see something like this, right? So along with track changes, we also support comments, color highlights. So you have actually a lot of review functionality. Comments can support replies and so on. They work between the desktop version of Oxygen and the web author, which is a browser-based version and so on. So there's a full support for tracking changes to content, to structure, attributes, and so on. Hi, in DITA we generally use tags, but I do not see any there, any of them here. Please clarify. And I think Sorin already presented that we allow you to choose how much of the structural information is visible directly in the document. With this, from full tags with attributes to no tags, so you have different levels that you can choose to see more or less of that information. But in any case, even if you are on no tags, so even if you have no tags, wherever you put the caret inside the document to some place, you will see that you see these location tooltips that will show you where you are, and also there is an outline view that will that breadcrumb and outline view that will show you the structure. So even in these cases, you can still get an idea all the time where you are in the structural part. How to reset the landing page as shown currently? If I mess around with the smaller window panes, how do I come back to the original look? This relates, I think, to the perspective, and then you see here under the main menu window, you have this reset layout, which will basically restore the default perspective layout or the default layout that you have. Okay, what are the supported image formats? Well, Oxygen supports all the usual image types like GIF, JPEG, PNG, SVG, PDF, and other formats that are documented in our user guide. And also we support the Java Advanced Imaging, I think it's called, which is a pluggable support for enabling any type of image. So if there is, let's say for some particular type of image, if there is a Java Advanced Imaging implementation, you can just drop that into the Java virtual machine that you use to run Oxygen, and that image type will be automatically available to be used also in Oxygen. And I think we also have a plugin can also add support for image types if it's needed, if that's needed. Then there was a question about the data perspective not being visible, and after a number of interactions, we actually ran to the conclusion that this is not visible because it is available also in the author and editor products that we provide, not in the developer product. So Oxygen has, the desktop version of Oxygen has, let's say, 3 flavors, one being the author, Oxygen XML author, and the other being Oxygen XML developer. And the editor is like a reunion of the two, like a bundle of both author and developer. And the author is tuned for content authoring, for creating XML content, while the developer is tuned for creating XML applications by supporting creating schemas, creating SSLT scripts, and so on. So has a not so much focus on actually creating content. As I mentioned, the editor combines the two into a single product. So yeah, so the data perspective being on the content authoring part is available in the author and the editor products, but not in the developer product. Please discuss how to create PDF output. And another one related question was how can the PDF CSS be customized? So in order to create PDF output, there are predefined transformation scenarios from the DITA map and also from a single topic to create a PDF either based on CSS or using the XSLFO, XSLT and XSLFO. This is an alternative provided, like the default transformations provided by the DITA Open Toolkit. So you can invoke them, and then in order to customize them, you can either use different parameters and set different values for those parameters, or you can also customize the DITA Open Toolkit by creating an extending the DITA Open Toolkit plugins, and then providing your customized version. Also, the Oxygen has a notion of publishing templates that allow you to define also a level of customization there. And we'll have actually a webinar in a few weeks. I think it's in 3 weeks that will cover the PDF transformation from DITA in particular, using. So then we'll go into details of what is possible during that webinar. There are also other available resources on our website related to this, even a pre-recorded webinar that covers data publishing with Oxygen. It's like 3 years old, I think, but mainly the topics discussed there also are still relevant, I think. How did you create the resources folder using the media pane? Well, those resources are not created at. They already exist on disk, and the media pane just presents them, so you can easily filter and insert them, and they are taken automatically by Oxygen. As Sorin shows, you can define different working sets where you can add folders that Oxygen will look for these resources, different files, folders, or other current files. So you can define your working sets. Maybe you can add, for instance, the project folder, and then Oxygen will look into all your project to discover these media resources. Or maybe you have the images or the video folder from your project, and then you can add that as a working set. And Oxygen will get these resources by looking into those folders. No conditional tags, just attributes. Yes, DITA actually implements conditional content support using attributes, not tags as in elements. So there are different profiling attributes called audience, product, and a few others. Like you see, revision, platform, and actually DITA is extensible, and you can define even your own specialized attributes that are considered to be conditional attributes, extending them from props and other props, but that's more advanced. But basically, you can just use the available profiling attributes that exist in DITA to implement conditional content. When using reusable components, it seems to have to create working sets in a pop-up window before we can use them. What are these working sets? As presented earlier, I think we already covered this. The working sets allow you to define a set of folders or files. Then the reusable components will look into them to identify, in our case, images and videos and different media resources. One more question about the layout part. If multiple variations are made, will reset layout bring back the original window? So the reset layout will bring back the default perspective. But actually, you can also set up your own perspective with side views and so on, and export the layout to a file. And then you can use, so if you use this export layout, that will give you a layout file that you can use maybe. And then you can reset, if from the options, you can also specify a custom or either load the layout to reload that your custom layout, or in the options you can also in the options preferences, if you filter by layout here, I think we have application layout, the first option that allow you to specify a custom layout, and then that custom layout will behave in a similar way. So then when you say reset layout, then the layout will be reset to your custom layout and so on. So you have different options to handle this. But by default, for data perspective, when you say reset layout, that will get you back to the what the data perspective will be without any changes that you made to side views or toolbars and so on. So does this mean we can edit the content without worrying about which tags to add for list, images, paragraphs, and so on? So the different actions that we provide, like from the data reusable components or from the toolbar and so on, will automatically insert the right structure for data. Actually, these toolbar actions, for instance, are defined specifically for data, and if you have your own vocabulary, you can also define such actions. Or even you can extend the data support in Oxygen by defining additional actions on the toolbar, or removing some of the ones that we provide here. And as I mentioned, maybe we will have a follow-up webinar that will cover this customization part of the user interface, of the actions that are available, and so on. Okay. From where did you open the check completeness dialog box? So if you have a data map, you have this action available on the Data Maps Manager toolbar, as Sorin presents now, and also from the Data Maps main menu. You can invoke this also from the Data Maps main menu. There is validate and check for completeness. A similar question, we received a similar question about how did you open the edit data scenario dialog. So similarly, when you want to configure a transformation, this is available from the toolbar, but also from the data maps. You have it here. And yeah, so and you can also, for any actions that we have in Oxygen, you can define shortcuts, for instance. So you can, if there are no default shortcuts for some actions, you have these options menu shortcut keys. You can identify the actions and define your own shortcuts, and then you can just use those shortcuts to invoke those actions. Okay. Would you create a project if you use the Data Maps Manager? Or which would you use, create a project or the Data Maps Manager? So we always recommend also using projects, because a project will allow you to see all the resources that you have in the project. And also there's something that we call master files support, or you can add your top level or root data maps if you use different submaps as modules, for instance, that you want to reuse in different publications. And also the project allows you to store project level options and project level transformations. So if you go to the preferences, as Sorin presents, many preference pages have these global versus project options. So then you can set up some options to be specific to a project. And that allows you to share some of the configuration information. For instance, like data specific options, or I don't know, maybe indenting, indenting options, format and indent options, spell checking options. Maybe you have some elements that you want to exclude from spell checking. And everyone that will open that project, any user, will automatically get those project options. So it's not an either or for the DITA Maps Manager versus project, but they are in a way complementary. The DITA Maps Manager just shows the structure of a data map and allows you to edit that, while the project is the upper level that shows the other resources, the maps, and also has this nature that allows you to store configuration information and share that with other users. How did you get the second toolbar? In the yes, so yeah, that refers to the data maps manager. That's we have this action show extended toolbar because sometimes you may not necessarily want to see all these actions, and if you are not using them, let's say frequently enough, then maybe you have more layout, more space without them, but they can be made visible by using that show extended toolbar action.
Sorry, George,
Yes,
but I don't remember to have shown that toolbar. I know I wanted at some time to show it, but I don't think I managed to show it during this webinar.
maybe
If
it
the
was
use
then something else, because the
something else.
toolbar from the main editor will dynamically change based on the current file that you have open. So it may be, you know, that if you open a different type of file, like a schema file, for instance, you'll have a different toolbar. Maybe. Can you embed external Markdown files into the Oxygen editor? Yes, actually, we support Markdown to be used in DITA projects. We support both using Markdown files in a more relaxed way, or using Markdown files as lightweight DITA topics. Last week, if I remember correctly, and the webinar is registered, we actually covered Markdown support in Oxygen. So you have a recording of that webinar available that shows the Oxygen Markdown support, how you can use that in the DITA context, and so on. So one highlight of that is that we support a DITA preview along with the HTML preview for the Markdown files, and also schematron validation on Markdown to check structure and so on. So that webinar may be very good research for you. Check our events page under the past events section. Maybe I will show that in a few minutes. What is the use of the text tab? Oh, Sorin wants to show you that now. Yeah, so under company, we have this events tab, and here under past events, we have the Oxygen Markdown support, and if you click on that, there's a recording available, and you can see all that. What is the use of the text tab? When do we use it? Well, actually, DITA is XML, and being XML is a text-based format, and that's actually the text content of a DITA document. You can editing this visually, it's sometimes more productive. It looks nicer, it's easier, especially for tables, for instance. But if you want to see what's under the hood, you can just move to the text page, and then you can also change the content from the text page, or see the actual XML file if you want. if you want to publish multiple documents at the same time to the page, how do you do that? So if you want to have multiple topics in the same page, like HTML page, actually there is a map an attribute, chunk attribute that you can add on a topic like care and preparation. If you see click on that and like the care and preparation topic, if you open that, right click on care and preparation, then I think edit properties should show you under the attributes maybe. There's a chunk attribute, and then you select the value to content. So if this is set to content, then the inner topics of care and preparation and the care and preparation will actually be displayed on a single HTML page. Publishing multiple maps to different formats, that's also possible, because when you configure a transformation scenario, you can select actually multiple scenarios, and then when you say publish, all of them will be executed. When you say apply, you see it says apply associated, and there are 5 scenarios in this case. You don't need to run this because it will take some time, but you get the idea. How can I control the size scale of the image inserted into a DITA file? Well, that depends also. So there are some attributes on an image like width, height, and scale, but really for DITA, the publishing pipeline matters a lot in this, because you can specify something maybe into the data source, but the publishing may ignore that. Or even if you don't say any scale, for instance, when you publish to our responsive web help and you have a very large image and you are looking at the web help on a phone, the publishing, the web help will automatically scale down that image to be visible on your phone or on the end user phone. Sorry. So you have some attributes specified by the DITA standard, but in the end, the actual way the images are displayed depends also on the publishing pipeline, whether you go to PDF or responsive web help or some other format. So we do not need to learn about tags since it is automatically taken care. Well, at some depends. Well, it depends. So up to some point, maybe it's enough to do not care that much about tags, but actually DITA tries to be like a semantic language compared to more presentation like HTML languages. So it's useful to actually know a bit about the tags that you are using, like a short description, or maybe if you use like a UI control or a shortcut menu item or some more semantic tags that you are using. Because otherwise, you will use DITA more or less at the same level with HTML. That's also fine, because then you can take advantage of the reuse profiling functionality, and that may be enough for you. But people usually try to implement also this semantic level, so you do not need to focus on making something bold or italic, but rather mark that is an API, or mark that is a UI control or a menu item, and so on. And then the publishing part will take care actually how that will But we provide a lot of support for different structures in DITA to allow users to more easily insert them. And it's useful also for people that start with DITA, because as you said, you don't need to care that much about the actual structure, but and eventually you will learn it anyway in time. But it helps people get started easier, let's say. Can we import tables from SFM in Oxygen? And we ask for clarification what is SMF, but I do not see a follow-up on that. So sorry, we don't know what SFM means. Structured frame maker. Well, there are, so structured frame maker, as far as I know, they actually edit DITA. So you can just take that content, the DITA content, and you can edit that in Oxygen. Another possibility is that if you have table content in like in Word or Excel or so on, like a word processing application or in an HTML page, you can just copy and paste. We have a smart paste support for DITA that will, when you copy something and if that application places an HTML flavor into the clipboard, then we are able to convert that content when you paste into an actual DITA table. So you can copy and paste from Excel spreadsheets, from Word documents, open Office documents, HTML pages, and so on. So basically any application that will place HTML flavor of the content in the clipboard when you copy that content, which probably most applications actually do that type of thing. Would you show how you access the media tab again? Okay, so if that is not visible like it is in the data perspective, you can go to the main menu, window show view, and then you can make that visible. So follow up on the previous question with the table support. The question is by making SVG or just no. So when you copy table content from another application, we actually generate the table markup in DITA. So it will be a DITA table that is generated. From Excel, for instance, or it will be a table in DITA with the markup for table and so on. Yes, that is generated. Actually, my colleague Radu also made the support to be able to refer directly to an Excel file, and that will appear like a topic that contains a table in the output, so without this marked copy. So directly like a live reference directly to the Excel file. There is a blog post, I think, on our blog about this type of thing. Does the editor have built-in support for reviewing, peer reviewing or external reviewer prior to publishing? So we do have actually a platform called Content Fusion that you can use to, and we will have a webinar covering that in 2 weeks or next week, maybe. I don't remember exactly. Let me see. In 2 weeks, actually, on July 8th, we have a webinar covering the Content Fusion platform. And that allows you to share some of the content that you have in Oxygen, and that will be placed on the Content Fusion platform, and you obtain a URL that you can provide to external people that you want to collaborate with, and they will be able to just follow that link without any installation and access to the content in a similar way as you have in Oxygen, but in a way simplified. For subject matter experts, and then all the changes that they make can be tracked with track change information, and then you can bring them back into your code. So join us maybe on July 8th, so in 2 weeks, for the Content Fusion webinar, and you will see exactly this part covered. There are also recorded sessions covering Content Fusion on our website if you want to see more information about that. And also on our website, there is information on Content Fusion, so you can discover that even before that webinar. What to do when all transformation scenarios are not present in Oxygen? So in the configure transformation scenario, you have also a new button, and then you can say DITA Open Toolkit Transformation, and then you can choose one of the transformation types, and then and here actually you see all the available transformation types that are possible with the DITA Open Toolkit, and then you just set different parameters and so on, and you configure your own transformations if you want. Which webinar will you be covering? The roadmap and in a project, what can be or should be defined, what should be defined in a roadmap, and so on. As I mentioned, we plan to have a few follow-ups webinars on DITA support. They are not yet scheduled, but they will be soon available. Just check our upcoming events section on our website, and you should be able to discover them. And follow us on Twitter also, like I see that someone mentioned. And we post news about upcoming events there, so then it will be easier for you to stay up to date. We also have a mailing list where we announce the Oxygen user mailing list that you can join, and then you will also receive notifications for our upcoming webinars and so on. Please have the DITA webinar sooner rather than later. Of course, we probably we already, let me become the presenter again. Yeah, so we already have for the following weeks scheduled 3 webinars. They cover the first 2 cover the collaboration part with the web author, so editing content in browser. This will be also featuring the DITA support. Collaboration, like the question we received earlier about reviewing content and so on, that's covered in this webinar. Collaboration made simple with Oxygen Content Fusion. And also related to the few questions that we received about PDF transformation and how you customize that, how you set it up. This will be covered also in this fine-tune your DITA PDF output. The Oxygen publishing engine is actually the support that you have for publishing in Oxygen can be used also outside of Oxygen. So this is what Oxygen publishing engine allows you. But all the customization part, everything applies also when you run these transformations directly from the desktop version of Oxygen, but you can use them also from a continuous integration server, for instance, or from a command line in general. So as I mentioned, additional events will be made available on our website, announced on our Twitter stream, and also on the Oxygen user mailing list. So if you want to stay up to date, please consider joining these channels. Yeah, so I think we are just at the end of the webinar. Thanks, Sorin, again for your
You're
presentation.
welcome. Thank you everyone for attending today.
And thanks all for attending, and hopefully you'll join us during the following weeks. And we plan to have like every Wednesday a webinar discussion about different topics. We're thinking also to have something like a kind of like Ask Me Anything type of meeting where we can have some of our engineers available and developers, and just open up the discussion and just get your questions and then see where that goes, and then we can answer them and show how present with Oxygen how the answer relates to different functionality and so on. So thanks again, and join us during the following weeks for new webinars on exciting new functionality that Oxygen provides. Thank you.
Goodbye everyone.